mechanism. You're gonna have to find the blueprints, and I don't remember what C is. Anybody help me out here? What is C?
Home.
What's that?
I was just guessing.
What'd you say?
I said home, maybe?
Starts with an H.
No, C. What the C is? Checkpoint. It's checkpoint, but that's okay.
Oh, home.
Yeah, so we're gonna have 3 different checkpoints on this island, right? And they're gonna be spread out throughout the level.
That's okay.
And that's good. I like that. Guess. Talk. Be talkative. It's important. Right. So this is island 1. Island 2 also pretty sort of similar, right? We got our checkpoint here, and we got the components we're gonna need to find. This little area was like forests, right? And this is a little pathway that's gonna lead us up to the mountaintop. And we're gonna have a guard patrolling that pathway that you're gonna have to get past in some puzzle-like form. And then you're gonna get to the mountain, right? And then you're gonna glide down, and then that's gonna be how you get to the main island on that one. So this is our Trello group, and you guys can all join our Trello group. It's kind of where we're putting together our collaborations, right? And then I got Island 3, right? It's got all of its stuff. Island 4, Island 4, radio, comm, whatever. And Island 5 is like our bridge. So jumping into that, we have 5 people right now who are going to be what I'm going to call our leads for creating these scenes. Well, technically, it's just going to be a train. They're going to be creating these trains, and then we're going to be taking these trains, and we're going to be seaming them together all into one scene. It's going to be one giant world. So we'll get to this at another point in time, but start keeping this in mind, right? Like, so raft, glider, grappling hook, radio, and bridge. If there's one of those things that you guys are really interested in, and you're like, I really want to work on implementing a raft or a grappling hook or whatever, then keep that in a note, because we'll all be grouping up into teams, and we'll be building these trains together. So for those of you who've never worked in Unity, I guess I'll just do like a kind of quick crash course on train building, because that's pretty much the next step. So what we have right here is just our practice zone. This is kind of just what we've worked up throughout the last couple months, here and there, a couple days a week. And we have our main character, who's just this little blue guy. He's pretty basic at this point. He walks around. He's got a very, very limited amount of animations that were done up in Blender and whatnot. But so cool thing about Unity is you have the scene view, which allows you to, you can manipulate these objects in this world, right? This is our little hut that we've built up. It's, you can move it around. You can grab trees. You can delete them. These are little wood planks. They will be, at least. They're also not textured. You can put them wherever you want. And when you hit this play button up here, it will turn Unity into what's called its play mode, which then you can actually, everything you've built in the game, you can walk around and you can do in the game, which is pretty cool. So this is kind of what we built so far. We've got a guy, you can walk around, you can hold shift to speed him up if you want to make him walk faster. He can recognize when there's certain objects in front of him, like this wood plank, it'll light up, and that'll be to the point to where it'll light up and you'll click on it to interact in some way, and then that little wood piece is going to go in your inventory, and that's going to allow you to help craft. So that's kind of basically the game. I don't know why the sound's not going right now. Maybe it's just really quiet. No. Oh, it's because the sound's not plugged in. Oh, I see what you did there. All right, so this is our theme song so far for the game, and this is thanks to Matt Kless. It's pretty awesome. We know. So we can jump into train building, I guess. Yeah, that'll be our next step, and it'll kind of show you guys more or less how to create a train in Unity. So what you're going to want to do is you want to make a new scene. We'll say what we have, even though it didn't really make any changes. And then we want to go to create 3D object inside of our hierarchy. Our hierarchy is it's kind of a view of all objects that are currently in existence in our scene. So we can create a 3D object. We'll create a train. They have built-in trains that you can work with in Unity. It's really nice. And then once you've created the train in the inspector, you have another window over here called the inspector, and this gives you all of the data on that train that you need, right? So you can have, we have the train editor. We can raise and lower the train. We can snap a certain height of the train. We can edit the actual train settings over here. So currently the train is 500 by 500. We decided that we're going to make all of our trains 2,000 by 2,000. So you can literally just type it in right here. and you can edit the size of your terrain. And then you can go in there and you can start doing fun things, right? So let's say I wanted to build some mountains. I can click this little button over here, the raise/lower terrain button, and I can change the strength of how much I want the mountains to go up to with the opacity and the brush size. Then once you've kind of selected that how you want it, then it's as simple as just clicking and painting, and it'll start drawing a mountain for you, right? Start drawing this terrain. It's going to manipulate the surface to kind of how you want it. So let's say you build some mountains, right? Maybe turn up the opacity and the brush size a little bit. We can really get it going here. And you're like, oh, I really like the height of that mountain, so I want everything to be that height. Now you can choose the snap height, right? You can click on that, hold shift and click on the height that you want to paint. And now everything that you paint is going to go up to a maximum of that size. See how it cuts off there? It won't go any higher than that, right? Because that's the size that we set it at. It's really bright right now, so I can click this little light here and I can turn off the in-game lighting. But this is sort of, so we have this camera. The camera is going to be our main renderer. Typically this is going to be on our player object. It's going to follow our player around. But since we don't have our player object into the game right now, this is just what is rendered when you hit play. So if we hit play now, it's just going to be, okay, really nothing, right? Because we just painted a couple things here. You can rotate this around, maybe. And in a second, we'll texture it a little bit, and you'll see start to look a little bit better. But so let's just make a little starting area for our guy, and we'll just kind of build up some hills here or there. Then we're gonna instantiate our guy, and he's gonna walk around in this world. So let's say we make it about, let's just say that's probably fine. And now we can go into our prefabs. This is our player object. This is the object that we had that was walking around. And what he consists of is, you can click this arrow next to it, and it'll pop out, and I'll show you the objects that are consisting of that guy. Right? So we have our main camera, which we need a camera to follow our character around, which has a script that we wrote called mouse orbit, and that allows us to orbit around the character, so it just stays static. You can adjust all these variables here. You can set public variables in the script, and then you can change them directly within Unity, which is kind of cool. I'll try to get to that sometime today and show you guys a little rundown of that. And then we have this basic mesh here that has just these two animations. It has an idle animation and a walk animation. And then we have the player rotator object, which is the object that the mouse is looking at, or that the camera is looking at all times to allow it to orbit around. So if we take this little player object and we drag and drop it down on this world, we can hit F to focus in on it. And now this is our little player object, right? And he will walk around in this world, even though there's not really much here. We don't want to have two cameras, right? We already had this initial camera, because when you create a new scene, you will always have a new camera whenever you create a scene. So we can delete that camera since we already know that there's a camera on our main character. So now when we hit play, it should fall. Oh, he's falling through the earth at the moment. Falls down a little bit. Not all the way through the earth. That's okay. Let's try that again.
No collision on the train.
Train should by default have collision on it.
Check the player.
What's that?
Check the player. Make sure it has collision.
Player should have collision as well.
Did you call the train ground?
I didn't, but oh, you're should be falling through because of that. Should just not be able to walk because of that. No, he's falling through. I mean, it's okay. We can come back to this.
That was one of the issues I was having. I think it's because the editor is loading.
You're still.
I'm still at 7 and 11. You're right.
Yeah. If I exit out and then come back, then it works.
Well, okay. Let's just save this as an untitled scene for now, and we'll just call it delete me, and we'll just reload real quick, and we'll see if this is gonna fix our problem.
just notice the stream is not on the camera. It's just on you.
Oh, stream turned off?
No, it's on. It's just you. It's not the screen that you're working.
Oh, I have the wrong scene, don't I? Okay, here we go. Switch that over. Alright, let's see if he falls through now. Okay, see, so now he's landing properly. The nice thing about Unity 5 is that he has default built-in shadows, which is cool. Something that you used to have to pay the big bucks for, but you don't have to anymore. So that's kind of how you will basically implement a train and kind of start it. You can use these cool tools to form it to be whatever you want. And we're going to eventually form these trains to more or less match, right? So I'm going to be doing this radio island. So I'm going to want to have some mountains up here, right? So we're going to have some mountains up here and a river that's going to go down from the mountains. And we're going to do some kind of event to where a boulder is going to fall down and it's going to block this river here. And it's going to allow the river's path to move to the side and end up putting out this fire that has our plane on fire. And that's going to allow us to salvage our plane for parts. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to create these mountains, right, in one of the corners. And I'm going to have pretty level ground everywhere else. You can kind of have a nice wave to it, but for the most part I want it to be pretty level. So if I hop into Unity, right, I could just say, oh, these are my mountains. And I can kind of maybe bring them down a little bit. This is huge. This is way bigger than, way higher up than I probably will make it. Or I'll probably lift up everything and then lower it down so it has water underneath it. But, so let's just say our player's here. Let's move them a little bit. And I'm going to show you guys a little quickly how to texture this train. So Unity by default will have a couple paint textures that you can assign. So you want to have your train selected. I now have it called ground. You want to have that selected. You want to go into this paintbrush icon over here. Click that. Go down to edit textures. You want to click this and you want to add a texture. And we're going to select one. And we have all of these little options, right? These little options that we can choose from. And it's kind of a mountainous area. Let's use we'll use this like grassy rock. We need a default texture for it as well. Let's use that good dirt. Or wait a second, sorry. Now we can turn on this light and we can see. Well, we still can't really see because we need to add an actual light in the game. So we can go here to create our light. We want to make a directional light. Directional light works best. It's think of it like the sun. The directional light is a very, very high emitting amount of light that will come out, and it'll come out at any angle. I mean, you can place it anywhere. I can place it all the way over here, and it's still going to shade on this side because of the angle that the light's pointing at. It's all based off the angle the light's pointing at, not actually where this light's really located. So if I wanted to change my shadows, all I would do is I would just take this light and I'd just rotate it a little bit, right? You can put shadows on that side or really wherever. So let's zoom in onto what we kind of have going here in our train. Yikes, I think it's because I'm not loaded. It's not liking it too much. Unity 5 has been having some problems with people loading it for some reason. Not 100% why, but if you guys are loading it into Unity 5 and you have this little load bar down here, for the most part, don't worry about it unless it's directly affecting how you're doing it. You might need to switch to Unity 4. I don't really recommend it. I would stay current as much as possible. But you might, like I said, you might just have to switch. So let's keep adding to this. All right, so we can add a new texture here. And this is kind of, this is a little more rocky of a texture. So if I paint it, if I paint this texture, it's no longer looking like the dirt. We can turn down brush size. We got brush size way too high right now. And we can start painting some of these mountains. Yeah, it doesn't look very good because it's light transport. This thing is not it's not updating very well.
Yeah, as you make changes, it's changing.
Well, one thing we could do is we could just make a way smaller terrain and we probably wouldn't have this problem. Even though our other scene has, we can access our scenes through here, through our project folder. This will have everything that we have in the game so far. For the most part, it's relatively organized. I say that because there's certain C# scripts here that are not in our scripts folder, right? And there's scenes that aren't in our scenes folder, but for the most part, it's organized. Let's hop back to our practice scene, see if this thing's loading properly. It is. All right. Well, I honestly can't tell you then why this scene is not loading, what the other scene is. You can see the little load bar down here. Oh, that makes it just look like shit. Okay. Well, I think that you guys hopefully are starting to kind of understand how to build terrains in Unity. It's pretty easy. I mean, it's mostly artistic at this point. Like, you're not really dealing with much coding. But like I said, right, so you're gonna click on the paint texture, you wanna edit textures, add, remove, do whatever you wanna do to the textures. Like I said, Unity has some default textures built in, which is kinda nice. Right, I mean, if I wanted to say, like, let's make it look like it's covered in grass, I can click that, and I can start painting and it's all covered in grass. It is just coming out really strange though, because it's not finished. One of the things you can really do for terrains, which is nice, is you can add little trees, little trees that are in Unity already. So we've created a couple in the past, like this little conifer tree, and then so once you have that selected, you can kind of just drag and it'll put in trees wherever you want. You can change the tree density. You say I don't want that many trees, just turn it down a little bit. Again, you can edit the brush size, cover a large area. Cool things like that. You can also add more trees, as many trees as you want. Go to the tree prefabs. You want to click this little button right here, and this will bring up another menu for you to choose from. Right, and you can select that. You can add as many as you want. It's good like that, and just place them however you want. And that's gonna really build. That's really the building blocks to making your scene. I mean, you need really those main components. You need to make sure you have a light. You have 2 lights now. Maybe that's causing a problem.
Sweet.
Yeah, I still hate how I'm zooming in and it's just not understanding what I'm doing. That's okay.
If you use a sand, because I found that the good dirt does that, but if you use like sand,
Oh, really?
as a default, it doesn't do that black.
Okay, let's test that out.
Yeah. It's like sand albedo or something.
Oh wait, I didn't actually edit that properly. It still has just really weird shading problems. And again, I can't tell you why this train's all bugged out like that.
How old is that laptop?
A couple years, maybe a year or 2.
That's me out of ideas.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Honestly, I couldn't really tell you. But so anyway, so we're gonna be building these terrains, right? And that's gonna be like the basic building blocks for what our levels are gonna look like. We're gonna take that character that we've made. We're gonna implement him. We're gonna need to add a lot of artwork to him, right? I mean, there's if you guys can go back and you can look at the tutorials we've done. We've done a number of tutorials in Blender and some tutorials in GIMP on how to texture and 3D model. And that's gonna be, you know, if that's something that you guys are interested in, that's something we definitely need people doing is the artwork, because that's huge and that's very time consuming and I'm not very good at it. So if any of you guys are, by all means, take a crack at doing some 3D modeling would be really cool. And then other than that, we really just need to fix some of our bugs, right? We got some major game breaking bugs in this game so far. For example, our character likes to run through. He likes to run through walls sometimes. Yeah, we got that sweet song playing. So right now he can also walk up a mountain forever, no matter how steep it is. Right? We don't want that. And if it's too steep, he will just walk right through the mountain. Oh, maybe not. Of course he won't do it when I'm trying to show it.
Does it happen in, like near the building?
Maybe. We can test that. Get out of the water. Don't think you can walk through the building. I think we've tested that. But at the same time, we're going to want to make him faster, right? This isn't going to be our ultimate speed. He's going to be moving a lot quicker than this. Right, I mean, that maybe when you hold shift, that should be his default movement, and then, I mean, his default movement should be what it is when you're holding shift. You know, these are all just variables that we can change around with. I think for the most part they're public. All right, let's see if we can get him to go through this wall right here. No. All right. Well, of course, it's fixed, right? Dang, I had a really great idea on how I was gonna fix that. I was gonna fix that today too, but now I guess we don't need to. We can still mess around with it a little bit though. All right, so let's fire up this walk around script. The script that we created to actually move our character around. Mono develop here. And now what I was thinking we would do is we can make a raycast, and we can send this raycast out. For those of you guys who don't know what raycast is, it's like an imaginary line that comes out from whatever direction you specify, and you want it to start at to go to whatever endpoint you want it to end at. And it will basically just check if there's any collisions with that line of any way. Let's see if I can remember the syntax without having to look this up. So we want to have a raycast hit object. This is what's going to be giving us info if this raycast is crashing into anything. And we want to say if physics dot raycast, and then we want to say its direction. We'll say transform dot position. Transform dot position refers to, transform is our game object's transform, which is getting its x, y, and z coordinates, and the position is actually referring to its x, y, and z coordinates. But if you look up here, you can see transform, right? So we're calling this game object, this player game object, dot transform, right? So we're accessing this variable, and we're getting its position dot x, y, and z. If you call it just dot position, it's going to return what's called a vector 3, and that's just an object that's going to return you 3 values that are going to give its position in 3-dimensional space. So we can say transform dot position. We want to specify the direction that it's going to be raycasting at. So we can say transform. Well, actually, we don't want to use transform.forward because transform.forward is going to be giving the forward position of the game object itself. What we want to be referring to is actually this mesh that we've created. Because if you look in this game, once you're playing it, you can hit pause, and then once you're paused, you can go back into the scene view and you can kind of mess around with stuff. And our game object is always facing the same direction at all times, whether the mesh is facing left, right, forward, or back. The only thing that's happening when you're changing its direction is you're just changing which way the mesh is looking. So if we really want to put this on local, and then we can see its Z is facing this way. This is a game object, even though we told him to look left. So what we can do there is we can click on the basic guy. This is the mesh that we have. We can see here that our mesh is actually doing the rotations and not the actual player itself. So what we want to do in our script then is we want to say his direction is going to be based off of the mesh, right? So we're going to say mesh dot transform dot forward, and then we can say how far we want it to go out. Maybe like 1.5. Put an F after it because anytime you're using a decimal and you're trying to say a float value, you gotta put the F after it. And then actually one thing we're gonna do before that, we're gonna say out.hit or out hit. That's going to out ray. And that's going to give us info if that ray hits anything. And then we'll say a distance like 1.5. So now if we're hitting anything, now we can say if ray dot collider dot name is equal to ground. And at this point, we were going to want to tell them to not move up the mountain, right? So let's just do it. We'll just do a debug statement here to see if we can actually get this raycast to find. Debug.log will say hit ground. Oops. All right, now let's see how many errors I have when I go back into Unity. Okay, like that. So now we're in Unity, we got this, and actually it should be kind of going at all times, because he should probably be always hitting the ground. Maybe not, though.
What issue are you trying to solve?
Well, ultimately the issue that we need to solve, the bug that we need to fix, is the fact that he can walk up mountains, right? So once he gets to certain points, we need to say you can't go up anymore. We need to turn off his movement, essentially.
Well, usually if you want to solve something like that, use the character controller.
Yeah, well, we're using rigid body movements, and character controllers don't really work well with rigid bodies. We could probably get rid of the rigid body altogether and only use the character controller, but where we're at right now, I'm just going to keep on going forward from where we are. I think that we can solve this with a raycast, and we can just have it looking forward.
And also one of the other issues with Unity terrain is that if you move it up diagonally, there's an issue with how that works. So if you're not supposed to be able to move something up diagonally, you stick it move up diagonally.
Wait, sorry, say that again?
In Unity terrain, there's a specific bug that's been going on for a while, where you walk up a train slope diagonally, it'll actually be easier, and a lot of games have troubles fixing that bug.
Okay, well that's kind of, sorry, what's that?
Yeah, I wonder if he was talking about straight running.
I mean, the principle's probably the same. Generally, that's fixed for like just straight up horizontal movement fairly easily, but maybe it's broken.
Well, one of the things we can do is we can get this ray's information, right? And then we can access that and we can say we can more or less ask it what its angle is. And we can say if your angle is steeper than like 45 degrees or whatever, then at that point, either turn off that specific movement that you're doing at that point in time or add movement, add the opposite amount of movement so he just is walking into a wall permanently. And I'm trying to remember how you access that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I was hoping that he would find this. But it might be too far down. So we can go new vector 3. Now we can access its individual x, y, and z points if we make a new vector 3. Right? So we can move this up a little bit. X, that'll be dot y, this will be dot z. And then from here we can increase this y value a little bit. So it's like at its like knee or so.
You could just do a debug ray that will show the actual ray in
The ray.collider.name.
No, you can actually, there's a way that you can show the actual ray cast in the editor.
Oh, how do you do that?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I have it in one of my projects though.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know, you could probably find it on the API. It wouldn't be that hard.
You can make it show up, right, as like like a
It's
red
just like a
line or
green
something.
line.
Yeah, we need whatever color line.
It's in, but it, of
Team
course
Up
it's
Dot Drawn or whatever.
something like that. I don't know.
Alright.
But it's in the API, and yeah, draw right. There you go.
Oh, draw ray.
Well, it's array, right? So
Yeah, well, line ray. I think it would do kind of the same thing, but let's see. Something like that. Is that what you're thinking?
right, I think you.
Start and direction. Oh, color. Okay, this is to be color. Color dot red. Color dot green. I don't know how to reference colors.
The reason I say draw right though is because a line, it has a starting point and an ending point, whereas a ray has a starting and then a direction, right? So
Wait, what was that?
when you're drawing a line has a starting point and an ending point.
Mm-hmm.
But the ray by definition has a starting point and a direction.
Oh, and a length. Yeah, versus a endpoint. I gotta figure out how to get this color to show up. I don't even know how to access that. I thought it'd be just color dot whatever the color you want it to be, but it doesn't like that.
I think you. It is static.
Oh, I guess it just didn't want to show up.
Probably just mono.
Yeah, mono being weird. Or not. See if this shoots out a little ray.
Shouldn't be in the. Should be in the
Let's see it. Maybe it's maybe I didn't make it long enough. Maybe 1.5 is too short. Let's make it like 100,000. See if that.
It'd be colliding inside of it as well, unless you specify that it's not supposed to be.
Well, it still should go for 1,000, shouldn't it? Should go for however long I'm specifying it.
Doesn't a raycast go until it hits something though?
Maybe. I know you can raycast through stuff. You can set different layers that you want it to bypass. Like this guy, I could probably put ignore raycast.
There's a little line there. See?
Oh yeah. There
All
is.
over the place.
That's 1,000. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's
Maybe it's just running into that block.
yeah, but it should be, this block should be ignoring raycast. So I'm not sure why it would be. That's the distance that it'd be going.
Dave looks like it's running into.
Let's make it really big.
I don't think you're actually using.
What's that? No,
I
he's.
don't know if it's actually using the other ray that you're talking about. I think it's just using.
It's just making this one. Well, that's all I'm trying to do really right now. Or maybe, I could probably just take this out though and you can throw it up here. The sad part is that apparently this is all just a moot point now because our guy's not going through the world anymore. No, he definitely has a distance complex. I don't know what he could be hitting on. I mean, maybe it's just I should just make all this to ignore raycast and see if that helps. Of all the children, ignore raycast, and we'll see. This should shoot it. Nope, he only likes to be about that far. It's weird. I don't know. Any ideas on why it's only popping out that little bit?
What about that transform position? 1.5, is that?
That's just moving it up a little bit.
Okay.
This is the starting point.
Okay.
And this is the direction it's going, and this is its color.
Okay.
Actually,
From duration.
I think we should try drawing the line except from a transformed out position to our hit dot point.
Draw a line instead of draw a ray.
Draw a line because I don't know. It'd just be, now that I think about it, it's probably easier to do. And so we do something along the lines of
What are the parameters for draw a line?
2 points and color.
That's it?
Okay.
It doesn't have a distance?
You don't need one.
Okay.
Because you should be getting the distance from your array. So the out parameter, what that does is it's telling you what is, it's kind of like instantiating an object that is a by reference sort of thing. So in order to reference hit, you can actually use hit outside of that method call there. So when you do debug that draw line, you do your transform dot position and the hits dot points.
Hit dot. Oh, you mean this raycasted object that we've created? Ray dot point?
Yeah.
To put that up here. Try that. I don't know if that's gonna give us what we want though, to be honest. Yeah, that's not gonna do. We can't reference this ray. This ray isn't being used anywhere.
Not
It's just
that right.
I don't know.
If you look at your, if you look at line 17, okay? Physics.raycast. Okay, when
Yeah.
you call physics.raycast, you give it a point, which is your vector 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which you can just, you don't need to pass in each individual position. You can just pass in transformed dot position.
Yeah, but we want to increase it by 1.5 because we want the position to be a little bit higher. Because we don't want the initial position to be on the ground because then it'll always be hitting the ground. We want it to be up a little bit so when he's going up a steep curve, he's going to eventually see
The
that.
center of your character isn't on the bottom of them. Okay. There's ways to change that, but it's not a big deal right now. So you can increase it by the float, and then you want your, so, right. And you're setting it from, that's right, okay. The only thing that you need to do is now is draw the line inside there, and have the line be from the transform, the vector 3 that you created inside there for the position you want, and the hit, which is your out ray.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. So you're saying do the line as in debug dot, or I guess I could just use everything I have here.
And comment the code.
For here, you're saying just make that. I think I see what you're saying. I'll just keep that comment though. You're saying instead of setting it in a direction, setting it to an actual endpoint with draw line.
Yeah.
And we can access that endpoint now because we're using raycast hit. Now we can say ray dot hit. No, we can't say ray
No,
dot
ray
hit.
dot point. You want the point.
Okay, cool. Cool. Alright, let's see if he's drawn his line properly. Perfect, there we go. Alright. right.
So now you're not sending it down, you're sending it forward.
Yep, that's what we want to be doing now. We want to send it forward because then we're going to be getting. See, because we want to be checking to make sure that that whatever ray or whatever we're hitting, this ray object is what our ray cast is hitting. What this line is going to run into, that's what ray is, right? So that's why we want to say. That's why we have this little line here, right? If ray.collider.name is equal to ground, then we're gonna log hit ground. This probably just wasn't going out far enough, so we're gonna do like 2.5. Try that. Yeah, we'll wrap up here in like 2 minutes.
Also, when you say your objects are running through the terrain, probably the reason why that is happening is because of the colliders, and your colliders are too big. So since your object that has such a small collider, the object has a bigger collider, they don't actually collide. The person will just walk through the collider. Well, not walk through the collider, but walk through the space between the colliders, so it won't actually collide.
Yeah. Like, because we're moving them by vectors, and he's eventually just jumping past that vector, and that collision's never happening. That's what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that when you create a collider, I'm assuming it's based on your mesh data, and if your character's collider mesh that you have on the actual character is too small, and the one on the terrain is too small, they won't actually collide because they'll just fall through.
Well, right now we're using a capsule collider. We're not worrying about using a mesh collider. This is our capsule collider here, this little object. And this capsule collider is definitely running into things. So, I mean, that's not really the problem. Really, all we need to do is we just need to make. I know what you're talking about with the character controller, how you can set the slope offset or whatever it's called, right? But I'm essentially just trying to do that. We're trying to do that on our own so we can continue using our rigid body because we want to be able to access things like gravity. Gravity's important for this game. But yeah, okay, so that'll wrap it up for today. Tried to cram in a ton of stuff in a tiny little bit of time, so it didn't work out too great, but that's okay. We're going to be meeting back here again Monday. Same time, same place, 12:30 to 1:15, and we will see you guys then. Thanks for watching, and thanks